like dandelions, right? Like traditionally are accepted as like weeds. You pull them out, you trample them on the ground. They're not really appreciated. They're considered, you know, they're not considered to be what they truly are, which is like this flower of incredible abundance and like medicinal properties. And it's also beautiful. And like, there's like, so, and it grows like anywhere through anything. It's like, it's incredibly resilient. Um, So I think it was that place of, yeah, like that place of deep resilience where love resides. Love being like an incredibly strong energy and a very powerful energy, and a place where you write beautiful songs.
I'm Sienna Mae Heath, and this is Real Unity. Today I'm joined again by Brendan Daniel for part two of our conversation. Brendan is a hardscrabble singer-songwriter and harmonica player from the bands Town Meeting and Red Pill Friends. Upon reflection of our meeting in the wilderness of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, we muse on gardening, nature, and reclaiming autonomy through self-reliance. We also look at the garden as a sacred blueprint for co-creating a more beautiful world, and reverent references to nature in his lyrics as a source of solitude and nourishment. Well, Brendan, welcome back. We just took a short break from our episode on Real Unity, where we explored your music as activism and even your spiritual practice and how it connects to your creative process, and just really good stuff. Um, as we know, we met at Pork Fest this summer at the start of the week. Learned from some random dude about AI music. That was my first exposure to it. And then, of course, I caught your set with the Red Pill Friends at the end of the week and was really moved by your lyrics and your energy. I'd like to center our conversation on the influence of gardening in your life, your creative practice, just, freedom, building self-reliance and getting out in nature and the legacy that you're building in that context as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me right back. Gardening is the best thing in the world. What can I say? I am basically in diapers when it comes to gardening in terms of like real, like, boots on the ground, like having your own garden and your own property. Um, but I worked at a organic gardening company that my girlfriend now is basically like the manager of. So it's very much involved in our professional life, and spiritually speaking, I think it is the metaphor for everything. And um, it's in terms of songwriting, I would say that absolutely all of my songs have come from some aspect of being involved in nature and moving through nature or being still in nature. um, and yeah, it's just it's great, and I really appreciate your work. And I first fell in love with the idea of food forests through Jim Gale's work, and uh, I just think that there's so much that can be attained in terms of liberty, and attained in terms of liberty with food forests and gardening and having a basic understanding of how to have autonomy through food.
The metaphors are endless. I see garden as a sacred blueprint, the garden as a sacred blueprint, and it is a theme in theology. As you know, of course, the Bible's maybe the most obvious, but in the Baha'i faith, we believe that humanity is like the flowers of one garden, and we can take that a little further and say we're like the food and flowers of one garden, like the companion plants, the families. There's lessons on maturity, timing, spacing. Like it's just, the metaphors are just endless, and many of your lyrics also build on those metaphors and that imagery. I was looking at some of the lyrics to your song Bad Habits. You ask, well, how do you start a garden? And how do you plant a seed? How do you know the pattern? You gotta read it in the leaves. And I imagine you're referring to tea leaves here. Um, And I think it's a sweet lyric, but it's also a really reverent reference to food freedom itself. You know, like the just starting a garden and the medicinal properties of the teas that you might grow. There's a lot there, and in just that lyric alone. Would you like to speak more to that? And
Yeah,
tell
I'd
my
love
I could
to.
tell my cat Honey here all about it.
Yes, I know. Honey loves that song. That song is so new. So that's great to be talking about the song already on a podcast. Because yeah, and there's a particular thing that happens with a new song where you still have that like love for it because it's not old and familiar. It's like it's still fresh and vibrant. And so yeah, that song I feel really good about. um, that line in particular is yeah, I think while mentioning this on your Real Unity episode that we just did, I try with song lyrics to paint in very broad strokes. So with the line of like, how do you know the pattern? You got to read it in the leaves. This is very much obviously, like you said, reading the tea leaves, but it's also like looking at the pattern like in a leaf and the symmetry and and ultimately like reading the leaves and like in terms of like maybe even like plant ID and knowing like what's what and like how to like discern one thing from the other and how to operate in this world both in a societal structure and in nature and um all that and yeah, that song, like I said, it's very new, so it's very dear to my heart, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad that you sent me those lyrics too, because like I just as a gardener, it caught my eye immediately. And good, fair point actually that like reading the leaves is not just reading tea leaves, but I literally plant identification and sacred geometry too. Like there's like the just examples of God's creation all throughout nature, whether it's leaves or sacred geometry of a sunflower, for instance, or a zinnia, a dahlia. Metaphors and just the inspiration is really boundless in
It's endless.
nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that about song. I really love that so much about song and poetry in general.
And so the song's called Bad Habits. Refresh my memory. What are the bad habits that you're trying to kick in the song?
There's also boundless. But I think it's more psychological. I think it's more the habits of self-talk and like negative self-talk and discouragement and um, inadequacies and your own neurosis that you get stuck up in. You get stuck in the minutia of whether it's depression or just like not being motivated or laziness or addiction. All of these different things that um, yeah, so at one point it was certainly substance abuse. There's definitely an element of that, the materialism of the world, instant gratification. These things that I was really trying to touch on. Yeah, I could quote every line of that song because I felt like maybe just because it's new, it's just like it was very dear to where I was at mentally when I wrote it. And in a way, when you're writing a song, it's like your own. It's a very therapeutic process that uh, is very healing. It's very self healing because you're writing it for yourself. You're writing it in some form to remind yourself of something like deep down that maybe you actually can't even see until you write this song. It's like music is like this particular type of shovel that like gets down into like a place where you couldn't go. But now that you can see it, you have it there to remind yourself like forever and and melodically. So it sticks. So yeah, it was that attempt to to have that there as a momentum to always be able to pull myself out of that bad place where those bad habits are. And in the first verse is so how do you get to heaven? How do you write the song where we even headed, we're all walking each other home. The line out of Ram Dass, I think, is most famous for saying it.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I really, I'm excited for the potentiality of that song and recording it, all the stuff that comes with a new song. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's like sowing a seed. Uh,
yes,
yeah. A professor of mine, a philosophy professor, which is apropos, would tell us time and time again that if you're studying to become a teacher, your job is not to sit there and watch the seed grow. It's just to sow the seed and teach the students or your audience to water it perhaps, but not dwell on what it's supposed to be.
mm-hmm. Yeah, smart.
Hmm. And there's rivers and forests and birds and trails and all in your songs. And we on Real Unity, I think you talked about like riding that river. We're all just riding that river, kind of another form of walking each other home. But when you're riding a river, like if the current picks up, you don't really know where you're going. You're just kind of along for the ride.
Yes, yeah, yeah. That's a great metaphor. I like
Hmm.
that.
Well, it was your metaphor. You said,
I know, but you
yeah,
touched deeper with the stream picking up, the current picking up.
yeah,
It's great.
yes.
Yeah,
I was also, yeah, yeah. You go
nature is
ahead.
just a heavy theme in songwriting for sure.
Hmm.
That's where a lot of the best stuff comes. If I'm stuck on an idea, just go out into the woods.
And well, and weather too. I mean, what are your some beliefs on like on the weather? And do you believe in like weather modification and that
Oh
sort of
yeah, like
thing?
geoengineering and
Hmm.
cloud seeding and stuff. Well, yeah, all I have to do is look up. It's right there. Yeah, absolutely. I wish that it was a myth, but yeah, I mean, I watch it happen almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, yeah, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, Dr. Rob Williams does a great podcast on geoengineering. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Well, another lyric I pulled up is "I got the mountain to myself." It's early in the morning and so forth. So I got the sense that that was coming from a moment of solitude and in nature. What's your spiritual practice like? Do you have like certain routines out in the wild that spark your creativity and keep it going?
Yeah, oh yeah. So you're quoting a line from the song "There Goes the Weather."
Oh, there. All right, there we
So,
go.
yeah. And yeah, I would say, I guess the routine wouldn't be the right word because I'm not very like routine. I mean, I try to have several routines. I try to work several routines into my life that will keep me aligned with um, that creative process and also like the physical process of actually like moving your body throughout the world, whatever, whether it may be in the form of like a direct exercise or a hike in the woods or just like going gallivanting about or whatever. That would be, I guess, my routine. I could probably benefit from being a little more disciplined in terms of like a dietary routine. But here and there I'll do some fasting and I just try to always connect with you know the the spirit that I think is certainly most available in places of nature and finding it in incorporating it into the chaos of your day-to-day life. That is like the job I actually just left today was a job with waste management. And it was like, one side of me is train tracks with rail carts full of those big metal containers full of trash. And then all day, giant 18-wheeler trucks are coming in with those giant bins of trash. And this one small strip of like woods that I would go to if I could, any chance that I could, and just spending like 10 minutes in there. And if the weather's nice, like take my shoes off and ground myself. I try to do that every day if I can, even in the cold weather in New England. And just try and get like adequate sunshine whenever I can because it just feels so good. That would be that's certainly something I do as often as I can. grounding and sunbathing.
That's yeah, it's
Absolutely.
impressive to keep up with that in New England. I'm really struggling in the winter time here in PA. And that's why when we were chatting about Texas and Mexico today, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can swing it.
Yeah, I'll be barefoot the
Yeah.
whole time in Mexico
Yeah,
and
right,
Texas.
right. Yeah, definitely Mexico.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was picking up on the lyric too that you can fall asleep in sunlight without waking up in rain. And yet again, there's that invoking of harmony. If you've written that song called Harmony. And equanimity is something that came up when Mike and I were deepening on some things, especially about like the garden as a sacred blueprint.
mm,
And the peace that comes in just releasing some of that material burden, like ridding ourselves of substances, like you mentioned. And you wrote too, like there's a riddle in the rhythm of my beating heart, and I'm such a fan of alliteration, like almost no matter what it is, like I'm just like yeah,
no wonder you
more
like my
yeah,
music.
yeah, yeah, more alliteration. Yeah. Well, and like kind of more in like the socio-political end of things, like you critique centralized systems and songs like Organized Crime and MK Culture and you grow your own food. You It turns out Annalise is well versed in herbalism, right?
Yeah,
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 yeah.
she's
So
a badass. She's great at all that stuff, much better than I am. That was the only point I wanted to make on that. She's the real kingpin of that.
yeah. How has growing your own food changed how you view like your place and creating a new world and fighting against old systems or just letting them fall?
It's been great. I think that there's a lot more that I'd love to just incorporate um, in our own garden and building, whether it's going to be here where we're living now or maybe in the future when we finally get that spot in New Hampshire
Oh my
or
gosh.
someplace with a little more freedom. But it's been absolutely encouraging, certainly meeting all the people who have been way more successful at it because it proves and validates that, there is that source there and you can get tips and the whole community that kind of springs forth around that type of thing. And I'm studying history now. It's incredible how much of that has always been a part of like the parts of or has been a part of like those times in history where there's been like this rebellion, like particularly like the 60s, like where these like and also like before that, like even in like the 20s and 30s and 40s, and where there's these worker parties, and industrialists and blue collar workers where as long as they have their own food, then they don't have to rely on the system. And I think that that's one aspect of a large group of things that is crucial because of the community it provides, obviously the food and the nourishment, but also just the, like you were talking about with Mike, just I wish that my dad would get involved with gardening because it's like it would just it would save him. you know, the whole process of it is just such a healing process, and it connects you so deeply with God and the earth and creation itself. And I wish that upon everyone. And if there was more of that, it would it would just be a better world to live in, certainly.
Hmm. Now, what was coming to mind was the Victory Garden movements in the World Wars. You familiar with that?
Tell me more.
Well, I essentially in the World Wars, it was actually the government that encouraged people or almost instructed people to grow their own food because we needed to out of
Okay.
scarcity. And I noticed during the pandemic as well, and I don't talk about the pandemic as often anymore, but specifically during the pandemic, a lot of people were honestly they were bored, like, and I think they were bored, and then also seeing the grocery shelves at times empty or just rather
Mm-hmm.
scarce, and it being springtime, it just like it was this perfect storm of that suddenly like people were asking me for gardening advice. And I actually, this is like about, it should be about you, but,
Oh, I love it. I love it.
but, I don't know if I told you this, but the business, I didn't really mean to start a business. I started a blog and I called it The Quarantine Gardener because I was actually quarantined for the first season. I was a total normie. And then eventually, actually, it didn't take long for me to start waking up because the garden centers were closed here in Pennsylvania by law
Hmm.
or by regulation. And I mean, all the grandmas and like all the whatever women in their 30s, like me, were like up in
Yep.
arms, like in
Yep.
springtime, like right now, like we're supposed to be like at your door ready to
Yep.
ready to spend and ready to plant. So I think that was the first seed that was planted
Yeah.
for me of like, something's not right here. This just doesn't seem natural.
Yeah. The silver lining. Yeah, that's what Mike was talking about. And I think that's um a perfect combination of, you know, what wakes people up, when you have something like that, the like you said, the perfect storm of I got to provide for myself, and what if they lied to me about this, then what else have they lied to me about? And it was just really an incredible thing that we all went through in those early years of the 2020s with all that crap. It was really, really wild thinking back to it, like all the different stuff that you had to deal with, and people's just the way people thought during that time was absolutely wild. And to be on this side of it now with all the people that we've come to know and connect with and exchange with and grow with and stuff, it's pretty encouraging and pretty cool.
It sounds like you actually are keen to move or to get a plot of land in New Hampshire. Maybe were you swayed effectively by all the real estate agents at Porkfest?
I was swayed by something. I'm mostly just swayed by all the farmers I know in New Hampshire. They've got it all already. It's definitely more along the lines. I mean, I'm in Massachusetts, so it's not hard, to find another place that isn't as expensive. And you have to put a motorcycle on the road in Massachusetts versus putting a motorcycle on the road in New Hampshire or Maine or something. It's like night and day. All the different red tape that you have to go through is crazy. So yeah, I definitely am looking forward to having a little more space to explore, like, maybe more long range um, gardens and food forests, and connecting with other farmers and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did an episode with Molly Englehart, who's our host at Confluence, about food forests and permaculture too came up. And like we've been talking about, like the endless metaphors and like this sort of like spiritual component of it. Um, the way I see permaculture, it's like a form of self-care because once you establish a plot that can kind of take care of itself, it's an ecosystem and it can almost treat its own body, if you will, as a temple.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's a very freeing form of gardening. I'd like to do more of that, but without without as much land as I would like. I'm still learning, like it's there's kind of I don't know. Sometimes there's this paradigm that forms of like people asking me for advice, like the sovereign gardener as it's taken off. Like I do consultations and stuff, but I have so much to learn. And I think nature really reveals itself to like in solitude. Like I've discovered all sorts of things. Like I don't know if you're aware that poison ivy grows next to its uh well, it grows next to what is
jewel
it?
weed.
Jewelweed. Yeah,
Yeah,
jewelweed. So it's like
yeah,
God just like gives us the
it's
remedy,
awesome.
It's so
Yes.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I first discovered that. It was like one of the coolest things ever.
Yeah.
And then I just went around telling everyone.
I know I keep telling I know I keep telling everyone too,
Because
but
it's in abundance where I live. It's like everywhere. So
both of them.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Or where there's one, there's always the other,
Yeah.
generally. And
Yeah.
jewelweed's so cool too. To get these like big bunches on the bottom and you break them open and it's like full liquid. It's super cool,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it is. I'm just gonna look back at some of your other lyrics too, like a Diamond in the Rough. That was a new one for me. Is that a new song or is it just new on
No,
my
no,
radar?
that's an older one.
It's an older one.
That one actually, I really to touch on that one I wrote. It was so, I guess, briefing on a lot of the story I told you on Real Unity about coming to Porcupine Fest and kind of discovering the whole, after being somewhat, I mean, I don't want to say the word exile, but like there was a lot of people like in my fan base from my old band Town Meeting, and people in my life who responded very negatively to me not getting the injection and my thoughts around all that stuff. So I wrote Hills We Die On, and then it seemed like following that one, there just seemed to be like a few songs that kind of came to me pretty quickly. Like I was just very inspired by all of it. It was like I had this new identity of like, well, I'm going to be this songwriter now that like writes, for these types of people, like the types of people that listen to the podcasts that I've been listening to. Like these are the types of people that my music's going to be for. So with that in mind, I was like writing all these new songs. One of them was There Goes the Weather, which we talked about a little on Real Unity, and one of them was Diamond in the Rough. And I didn't really know. I mean, like it was just like, so when I write a song, if I know it's good, my heart will open and I'll cry. I know
Mm.
it sounds kind of cliche, but it's true. Like even when I wrote the Dandelion's Den song, which maybe we could talk about later, it's just like it was great to co-write with Jude because it's a very personal, vulnerable thing for me in particular, writing a song because of that. It's like that it sits right. You can mess around with a bunch of different words or formats, but like when it everything aligns like energetically and you just feel this kind of like rush that like passes over you and your heart opens and you're like, yes, that's it. So I was feeling a lot of that as I was writing it, not really thinking too much about like what I was writing it about, but I was listening to a lot of Mark Passio at the time, who does the What on Earth is Happening. He's been doing it since like the early 2000s, just like raging against the Federal Reserve and 9/11 and the occult and all these different like topics that I just love to go, to get deep into. And a little while ago, where you actually came out to see me perform at the Soundpath Festival in Pennsylvania, um, he was involved in it, or he was there at least, and was familiar with my music, which was like super inspiring and encouraging because like it was like a full circle kind of a moment where he was like inspiring me deeply during all the years through COVID and all that crap. He kind of, was like somewhat of a celebrity. I heard his voice like damn near every day. And then to have him kind of express how much he loved my music and how great he thought I was as a songwriter. And that was just like amazing. And his favorite song was Diamond in the Rough. And it wasn't really one much I gave, like I didn't really give much thought to it. I thought like Hills We Die On was like, that would be like the the number one hit or whatever. But for me that was just a really cool moment and a of realizing too, like some, even if you don't have like even if they're not your favorite or you don't have like a particular thing that you're necessarily trying to say, like there's something in that feeling that's trying to be expressed that's like there for a reason. And yeah, like it can mean anything. It means a lot of things, that song. And I asked him what he liked most about it and like what his favorite line was, and he literally looked at me and was like, someone's got to land this thing. And
Hmm.
I was just like, I love that, because that's one of the lines I had in it. Yeah, I have the, what is it, I think I'm overthinking this. I think I think too much. Um, I don't need a way out. I just need a way around again. So put the parachute down because someone needs to land this thing.
Hmm. I'm pulling them up now, actually.
But yeah, that one's on
Yeah.
the Porkfest live at Porkfest 2023 that Mike
Hmm.
recorded.
Oh yeah, Diamond in the Rough is actually the one where you say you're giving up drinking too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first I'll give up drinking, then I'll give up giving up.
Okay. Oh, and there's a line in there about dandelions, damaged goods and dandelions.
Yeah,
Dandelions is it intuition or a feeling in my gut?
yeah.
Yeah. You wanted to tell me about dandelions, Dan.
Yes, that was one that's like probably the most recent song that I wrote, and I wrote it with Jude Roberts, who is one of the members of Red Pill Friends, along with me and Mike Miranda. Um, and he's just such a great songwriter. He's a huge inspiration to me. Another one like Mike, who I met uh, in a time where I didn't have a lot of those heroes or influences, mentors, to kind of learn from. And yeah, him and Mike had a couple co-writes, and like I was like, I want to co-write a song with one of these guys, So during our last tour, I was staying at where he is currently staying, a guy named Daniel, a great guy. And that's where he's living now. So I was like sleeping downstairs on the couch, and I had like just like an idea came to me, and I was like, if I play this enough, Jude's gonna come down and he's gonna jump in on some of this, and it's just gonna work out. I just know it. So then I just had this idea, I was lost, but now I'm fine. No, I was blind, but now I see. There's no one in my way but me. I just had that one verse stuck in my head, and then I said something about the um Daniel's den, or the lion's den or something, and he thought I said Dandelion's den, and then he was just like, oh, and then that was it. Like he came up with that, and then we just started writing together. It
Mm.
was great. It turned out to be a pretty great song.
And so what is the dandelions, Dan?
Well, I guess it was just in one realm, it's where we were. We were at Daniel's house, in his den, but it's also this kind of place maybe where, um, the like dandelions, right? Like traditionally are accepted as like weeds. You pull them out, you trample them on the ground. They're not really appreciated. They're considered, you know, they're not considered to be what they truly are, which is like this flower of incredible abundance and like medicinal properties, and it's also beautiful, and like there's like so, and it grows like anywhere through anything. It's like it's incredibly resilient. So I think it was that place of, yeah, like that place of deep resilience where love resides. Love being like an incredibly strong energy, and a very powerful energy, and a place where you write beautiful songs. I don't know.
And you get to make a wish on dandelions too when they reach that last phase of their lives.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We have a line in there about that too. I think I wrote the um, I'm planting all these. I'm hanging all my wishes on these dandelion seeds.
Mm.
Yeah, I actually have that on this one written here. These are the lyrics for this one. I wrote it not too long ago. Yeah, I was found, but now I'm lost. I tried to fly before I walked, growing in your flower pot and trampled like your weeds, hanging all my wishes on these dandelion seeds. A little bit of bitterness is what we need to make it sweet.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. That kind of, it's not going to be easy, but it's simple and it's worth it and it's beautiful.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
And the bitterness and sweetness reminds me of like the way some plants relate to each other or like benefit one another is like some plants will infuse or enhance the flavor of another. I'm
Mm.
pretty sure chamomile does that for cucumbers, which doesn't really make sense on face value because like you wouldn't necessarily want a cucumber that tastes like a chamomile, but it's not that straightforward. And then meanwhile, I'm pretty sure basil, if too close to chamomile, will take away from the scent of chamomile. It's kind of like people too, like
Huh.
some of us need to be spaced out more than others, or some of us like kind of like a sensitive chamomile type can infuse and enhance a crunchy cucumber protest songwriters.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. We've got a good
Chamomile.
old-fashioned notebook there. Do you typically put pen to
Yes.
paper when you're songwriting?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. It depends on circumstance. If I'm, if an idea comes to me and I'm in the middle of something and all I have is my phone, then I'll try to find something I can write it down on, because it's more natural to me that way. And I'll generally will always go back to something that I write down, but not always go back to something that I write down on my phone. I have so many things in my, it's for some reason when I look at it on my phone again, I can't remember how it went. But
Mhm.
when I look at it on the page, it's like I can hear it again.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know why.
I know, like, so cursive is kind of a dying art, and kids aren't learning cursive in schools as much, if at all. But the reason why we were taught cursive and just penmanship and handwriting so much in our generation and generations past, it's not just for the obvious reason that we learn how to write, but it also like it does something to the brain. It like
Mm,
organizes your brain at a young age to be able to form letters and to with cursive, connect
yeah.
connect the letters, and there's probably something in there about like connecting ideas and a multisensory experience of writing, like it might be what you're experiencing too.
Yeah. Yeah. I never thought about it like that, because it's all cursive. It's all connected. That
It's
would
all
that would
connected.
that would be my ad pitch for cursive.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when we consider like the cycles of the garden, perennials, annuals, and the circle of life as we were discussing, and life and death itself, I'm curious, like when you look at like those metaphors, and then you look back at your life so far, and you consider, just before you pass materially into the spiritual realm, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind as an artist and just as a man?
Well, that's a great question that I feel like I'll have a completely different answer for on this episode that I just gave an answer for on the other episode, which is
That was the
great
plan.
because in truth, that is, I guess, really, be free and seek after truth and love. And all the cliches are all the truest things more often than not. Uh, but I would like to leave behind the legacy of someone who didn't just take the easy way out, didn't give up on themselves, didn't, um, I don't want to use the term sell out because it's just so overused, but, you know, take the bargain, um, of not engaging with that spirit of truth, which is not always comfortable, but it's always right. Um, because that's more important. It's more important than anything in the world. It's more important than money. It's more important than fame or friends or, um, because if there's no authenticity in that, then um, yeah, um, yeah, like love each other and tell the truth. I
Yeah,
guess.
it's easy. Well, it's easier said than done sometimes, but
Yeah,
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 yeah. I was really moved too by your origin story of the quasi breakup of your band with your brothers, but still maintaining that family unity, which we talked about on Real Unity. And yeah, it's like your own little hero's journey.
yeah. No, that's a super important point, and thank you for pointing that out because it's so true. It's like we've got to like learn to have some grace for each other. Everyone's really going, everyone's on their own journey, they're on their own path, everyone hikes their own hike, and it's what you can learn from your journey the most should give you the tools you need and the experience you need to be able to know how to handle like the way other people are and have some sense of grace and forgiveness because you can relate because you're on your own journey. And for me, that's been like a super important thing. It's like it can be so easy to get sucked up in the tribalistic sense of like, oh, I'm one of these now. Like the world has shown me that, like, well, I'm in like, oh, I'm an anti-vaxxer, or I'm an anarchist, or and then you're just kind of like just kind of like wearing that hat, but you're not really like you somewhere along the way, like you for like the authenticity of like being true to that sense of like love and like the overall, it's not about like the little role that you think you are. It's about like the and I'm just like totally I don't have any notes or don't prepare for any of this stuff. But yeah, I'll listen back to this and be like, what the heck was I talking about? But yeah, I think that it's just super important that we do try to find that way where we can have some grace for each other and some forgiveness and
Mhm.
love, because that's going to be what gets through all of the crap, like a dandelion in some sense, like be like a dandelion. Even though you've been crushed and not appreciated, you don't let it keep you from growing out of the cracks of cement,
Mhm.
just like growing for the sake of growing.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, it was a real gift to sit down with you tonight. Thanks, Brendan.
Yeah, this was a cool little double episode. Thanks for having me and making space for me.
Of
And your
course.
episodes have been really cool. I listened to that one with Molly. I'm almost done with it. It was
Mhm.
great. And hopefully I'll see you at Confluence.
Yeah, hopefully I'll see you at Molly's Sovereignty Ranch conference in April, right?
Yeah.
In Texas. We'll see. Yeah, either Texas or Mexico. I'm aiming for one or the other, likely.